The Stoic practice of detachment is not about emotional disconnection, but about mental clarity. It's about focusing your energy on what truly matters and not getting bogged down by things that are beyond your influence. In the workplace, this can be a powerful strategy for reducing stress and increasing productivity. When you stop worrying about how others will react or whether every external factor will go your way, you free up mental space to focus on what you do best. How do you begin to practice this form of detachment in your daily work life? Identify what's within your control. At the start of each day, make a clear distinction between what you can control and what you cannot. For example, you can control how well prepared you are for a meeting, but you cannot control how your colleagues or boss will react to your ideas. Focusing on your preparation, rather than worrying about their response, will lead to better outcomes. Practice mental rehearsal. A useful Stoic exercise is to mentally rehearse letting go of things that don't serve you. Before entering a stressful situation, whether it's a big presentation or a difficult conversation, remind yourself of what's within your control, your effort, your words, and what's not, the other person's reaction, the final decision. This shift in focus can help reduce anxiety. Use the Stoic pause. When something goes wrong, maybe a project gets delayed, or a client responds negatively, pause before reacting. Take a moment to ask yourself, is this within my control? If it's not, practice letting go. This pause gives you the mental space to respond more calmly and effectively. Detach from praise and criticism. One of the most difficult areas to apply Stoic detachment is in dealing with praise and criticism. We all want to be appreciated for our work, and criticism can sting. But here's the Stoic insight: neither praise nor criticism defines your worth. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, it never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own. Don't allow external opinions, whether positive or negative, to control your sense of self-worth. Instead, focus on whether you've acted in accordance with your values and done your best. Reflect at the end of the day. At the end of each workday, take a few minutes to reflect. What went well? What didn't? Importantly, ask yourself, did I waste energy worrying about things outside my control? This reflection helps reinforce the Stoic principle of detachment and allows you to improve your ability to focus on what matters. Here's a story that perfectly encapsulates Stoic detachment. James Stockdale, a U.S. Navy officer who was shot down during the Vietnam War and held as a prisoner of war for over 7 years. Stockdale credited his survival to his adherence to Stoic philosophy, particularly the teachings of Epictetus. In the harsh conditions of captivity, Stockdale couldn't control the circumstances. He couldn't control his captors, the torture, or when he might be released. But what he could control was his mindset. He focused on how he responded to his circumstances, refusing to allow his spirit to be broken by events outside his control. This Stoic detachment not only helped him survive, but also became a source of strength and resilience. While most of us will never face the kind of extreme conditions Stockdale endured, we can still apply his lesson in our everyday work lives. Whether it's the outcome of a project, the opinions of others, or the direction of the company, detachment allows us to maintain our mental equilibrium. It frees us from the emotional roller coaster of external events and helps us focus on what truly matters, our own actions and responses. In the end, Stoic detachment is about embracing reality. Things won't always go your way, and that's okay. By letting go of the need to control the uncontrollable, you can approach work and life with a greater sense of peace, clarity, and purpose. And that's a skill worth mastering in any environment. We've journeyed through the powerful and timeless principles of Stoicism and explored how they can help us navigate and thrive in the high-pressure, fast-paced world of modern work culture. From building resilience and mastering focus to maintaining integrity and practicing detachment, Stoicism offers a guide to not just surviving the demands of today's workplace, but to thriving within it. In the chaos of modern work life, It's easy to feel like we're constantly under siege by deadlines, expectations, and the relentless pursuit of success. But Stoicism teaches us that true strength comes not from controlling the external world, but from mastering the internal one. This shift in perspective is both empowering and liberating. Are you tired of being weighed down by the past? What if there was a way to break free from those burdens once and for all? In today's video, we're diving into the Stoic approach to help you let go of the past and live fully in the present. The opening is a critical point in any video, especially on YouTube, where viewers have short attention spans and many options to switch to. This hook is designed to immediately capture attention by appealing to a common pain point: being stuck in the past. People often struggle with regrets, painful memories, or mistakes, and the promise of a solution speaks directly to their desire for emotional freedom. The key is to phrase the problem in relatable language, using words like weighed down and burdens to make it visceral. Next, you provide the viewer with a promise. Stoicism can help them break free from the past and achieve mental clarity. The phrase, once and for all, hints that this isn't just a quick fix, but a profound transformation that Stoic wisdom can offer. It subtly introduces the viewer to the Stoic philosophy without overwhelming them with jargon. Letting go of the past can feel like an impossible challenge. But the Stoics believe that true peace comes when we stop letting past experiences dictate our present. Imagine if you could finally release old regrets, mistakes, and missed opportunities. In this video, I'll show you how Stoic philosophy can help you build mental resilience and embrace the present with clarity and strength. Let's face it, everyone has moments they wish they could erase, moments they replay over and over in their minds, hoping for a different outcome. Maybe it's a regret from something you said, a missed opportunity, or a mistake you made years ago that still haunts you. We've all been there. But here's the truth. The past isn't just behind us. It's completely outside of our control. And that's where the wisdom of Stoicism comes in. The first principle the Stoics offer us for letting go of the past is simple but powerful: acceptance. But let me be clear, acceptance is not the same as approval. It doesn't mean you have to like what happened. It simply means recognizing that no amount of dwelling or replaying events will change them. The past is fixed, and the more we resist that truth, the more we suffer. Imagine carrying a heavy suitcase everywhere you go. The contents of the suitcase represent your regrets, your past mistakes, and your painful memories. Now, imagine what it would feel like to finally set it down. That's the feeling of acceptance. It's the emotional freedom that comes when you stop fighting against the past and begin to focus on the present. One of the great Stoic thinkers, Epictetus, said it best: "We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgments about them." Think about that for a second. It's not the events themselves that torment us, but our interpretation of them. Two people can experience the same event. One moves on, while the other remains trapped in regret. What's the difference? The one who moves on has accepted that they can't change the past, while the other is still fighting it. Acceptance is about shifting your energy. Instead of pouring your mental and emotional resources into wishing things had been different, you can start investing that energy into something that actually matters: the present moment. And that's where real change happens. So how do you practice acceptance in real life? Here's a simple exercise. Pick one past event that you can't stop thinking about. It could be anything from a relationship that ended badly to a job opportunity you missed. Now, repeat to yourself, "This is something I cannot change. It's out of my control." Breathe in deeply as you say it. On your exhale, let go of any tension associated with that memory. You might not feel instant relief, but over time, this practice will help you untangle yourself from the grip of the past. By accepting what we can't change, we open ourselves up to the power of now. And that brings us to the next Stoic technique: reframing your narrative. If acceptance is about letting go of the past, reframing is about reclaiming it. The truth is, you can't change what happened, but you can absolutely change how you see it. And this is where Stoicism offers its second powerful technique, reframing. We all have stories we tell ourselves about our past. Maybe you think of that failed business as a personal failure, or you see that broken relationship as proof that you're not worthy of love. But what if you could rewrite those stories? What if, instead of labeling them as failures, you saw them as essential stepping stones on your path to growth? Enter Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, who famously said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the very obstacles we face can become our greatest opportunities for growth. It's all about how you choose to frame them. Let's break this down. Imagine you're walking through the woods and a fallen tree blocks your path. You could sit down and lament your bad luck, focusing on how the tree ruined your walk. Or you could see it as a challenge, an opportunity to climb over, find a new path, or even discover a hidden trail you never would have found otherwise. The obstacle becomes the way forward. Now apply this to your own life. Think about a time when you experienced a setback. Maybe you didn't get the promotion you were hoping for, or a personal project didn't go as planned. How did you interpret that event? Did you see it as a sign of failure, or did you find a way to use it as a learning experience? Here's where the magic of reframing comes in. You can choose to view your past not as a series of mistakes, but as a collection of lessons that have shaped who you are today. Every challenge, no matter how painful, holds value if you allow it to teach you something. Take Thomas Edison, for example. He famously made over 1,000 unsuccessful attempts to create the light bulb. When asked about his failures, Edison reportedly replied, "I have not failed. I've just found 1,000 ways that won't work." Edison's reframing of failure as a learning process is exactly what Stoic wisdom teaches us to do. Let's make this practical. Choose one event from your past that you've been viewing as a mistake or failure. Now, take out a piece of paper and write down at least 3 things you learned from that experience. How has it made you stronger, wiser, or more resilient? How did it contribute to who you are today? This is the process of reframing, turning obstacles into opportunities. By reframing your narrative, you're not just letting go of the past, you're transforming it. You're taking control of the story you tell yourself, and in doing so, you're shifting your perspective from victim to victor. Remember, it's not what happens to you that matters most. It's how you interpret it and use it to grow. Now that you've accepted what you can't change and learned to reframe your past, it's time to focus on the only thing that truly matters, the present. Let's dive into how to stay grounded in the present moment, free from the weight of the past. We live in a world that constantly pulls our attention in 100 different directions. We're either stuck replaying past events or worrying about what's going to happen next. Rarely do we find ourselves fully present in the now, and yet, this is the only moment that truly exists. The past is gone, and the future is nothing more than a possibility. All we have is this moment. This brings us to the third Stoic principle for letting go of the past, the importance of focusing on the present moment. As Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Think about that for a second. Most of our suffering comes not from what's actually happening, but from the stories we create in our minds. We constantly relive past pain or anxiously anticipate future troubles, but neither of those things exists in the present. Let's break it down. Imagine you're carrying a heavy backpack, but instead of physical items, this backpack is filled with worries, regrets, and fears about the past and future. It's exhausting, isn't it? The Stoics believe that to live a peaceful life, you have to set that backpack down and immerse yourself in the here and now. But how do you do that? The answer is mindfulness. Mindfulness is about being fully aware of the present moment, without judgment, without distraction. It's about observing your thoughts, emotions, and sensations without getting lost in them. This practice is at the heart of Stoic philosophy because it teaches us to focus on what we can control, our actions and reactions in the present. To start, let's try a simple mindfulness exercise that anyone can do, no matter where you are. Take a deep breath in, and as you do, notice the sensation of the air filling your lungs. Hold it for a moment, then exhale slowly, paying attention to the feeling of release. Repeat this process a few times, focusing only on your breath. If your mind starts to wander, maybe to a regret from the past or a worry about the future, gently bring your focus back to your breathing. This exercise might seem small, but it's incredibly powerful. It brings your attention away from the noise in your mind and back to the reality of the present moment. You're no longer caught up in past mistakes or future anxieties. You're here, now, fully experiencing this moment. For the Stoics, this wasn't just a mental trick, it was a way of life. They believed that true freedom and peace come from being able to stay grounded in the present, regardless of external circumstances. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, spent his life practicing this. Despite the overwhelming responsibilities of ruling an empire, he wrote in his meditations about the importance of focusing on what was directly in front of him, whether that was a decision he needed to make or a simple task. He understood that worrying about what might happen next was futile. Only the present moment held any power. A practical way to incorporate this Stoic wisdom into your life is through the concept of micro-mindfulness moments. These are small pockets of time throughout your day where you pause and bring your attention to the present. For example, the next time you're waiting in line or sitting at a red light, instead of reaching for your phone or letting your mind drift, take a moment to simply be. Notice your surroundings, the sounds, the feeling of your feet on the ground. These small moments of mindfulness help train your brain to stay present and focused. And here's the beauty of it. The more you practice being present, the less power your past will have over you. You'll start to notice that those painful memories and regrets don't creep into your mind as often. You'll be too busy living in the present to dwell on what's already happened. In addition to mindfulness, the Stoics also practiced something called premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This might sound strange, but it's a practice that helps us stay grounded in the present by acknowledging that the future is uncertain and unpredictable. The idea is to mentally prepare yourself for the worst-case scenarios, not to dwell on them, but to reduce their emotional impact. By imagining the worst and accepting that it could happen, you take away its power. The result? You're less likely to worry about the future and more likely to stay present and focused on what you can do right now. As you move forward, remember this: the past is only a memory. The future is nothing more than a possibility. All we have is this moment. And by focusing on the present, you not only free yourself from the burdens of the past, but you also create a future filled with more peace, clarity, and purpose. So, the next time your mind starts to wander back to past regrets or forward to future anxieties, take a deep breath. Bring yourself back to the present. This moment is all that matters. One of the most misunderstood aspects of Stoicism is the idea that it encourages emotional detachment, or that Stoics are somehow cold and unfeeling. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Stoicism doesn't ask us to suppress our emotions. It teaches us how to manage them in a healthy way. And at the heart of this emotional management is something profoundly important: self-compassion. Let's be real. When it comes to the past, most of us are our own worst critics. We beat ourselves up for mistakes we made, for the things we didn't do, and for the person we think we should have been. We hold on to this self-judgment as if punishing ourselves will somehow fix the past. But here's the hard truth: it won't. All it does is keep us stuck in a cycle of regret and self-blame. The Stoics understood this well, which is why one of their core teachings is about self-forgiveness. Seneca once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." In other words, mistakes and missteps are part of the human experience. They are what make us stronger, wiser, and more resilient. So, how do you start practicing self-compassion? The first step is to recognize that everyone makes mistakes. Even the most successful, seemingly perfect people you know have messed up, sometimes in ways you can't even imagine. What separates those who thrive from those who suffer is how they respond to their own mistakes. Instead of dwelling in self-blame, they forgive themselves and move forward. Self-compassion starts with a simple but powerful mindset shift. Treat yourself the way you would treat a friend. Think about it. If a close friend came to you and confessed they had made a mistake or were struggling with something from their past, would you berate them? Of course not. You'd offer kindness, understanding, and support. So why not extend that same compassion to yourself? Here's a practical exercise to help you cultivate self-compassion. Write a letter to yourself. But not just any letter. Write a letter of forgiveness. Think of a specific mistake or regret that's been weighing on you, and in this letter, acknowledge it. Then, offer yourself the same words of kindness you'd give a friend. Tell yourself that it's okay to be imperfect, that you're allowed to make mistakes, and that these mistakes don't define you. This act of writing is a powerful way to shift your internal dialogue from one of self-criticism to one of self-compassion. Another aspect of self-compassion in Stoicism is the idea that every mistake is an opportunity for growth. The Stoics believe that we learn and improve through adversity. Each failure brings with it a lesson, if we're willing to see it. So rather than focusing on the mistake itself, focus on what it taught you. Did it make you more resilient? Did it teach you something about yourself or the world around you? By reframing your mistakes as opportunities for learning, you transform them from burdens into tools for growth. It's important to remember that forgiveness is a process, not a one-time event. You might not feel instant relief when you start practicing self-compassion. That's okay. What's important is that you keep trying. Over time, you'll find that the more you practice, the easier it becomes to forgive yourself and move forward without the weight of self-blame. Ultimately, self-compassion is about accepting your humanity. It's about recognizing that perfection is an illusion and that the road to wisdom is paved with mistakes. The Stoics weren't perfect, and they didn't expect us to be either. What they did expect was that we treat ourselves with kindness, learn from our experiences, and keep moving forward. So, the next time you catch yourself spiraling into self-blame, pause. Take a deep breath and remind yourself that you are worthy of compassion, that your mistakes do not define you, and that every step, whether forward or backward, is part of your journey toward wisdom. We live in a results-driven world where success and failure are often measured by outcomes, whether it's getting a promotion, achieving a personal goal, or earning approval from others. But here's a hard truth. No matter how hard you try, you can't always control the results. This is where Stoic detachment from outcomes becomes a game-changing philosophy. The Stoics believe that while we can control our actions, we cannot control the external forces that influence the outcomes. This is a powerful lesson because it liberates us from the anxiety of constantly trying to control things we have no power over. Instead of getting fixated on the end result, the Stoics urge us to focus on what we can control: our efforts, our intentions, and our character. Epictetus said it best: some things are up to us, and some things are not. Once you internalize this concept, you free yourself from a massive amount of unnecessary stress. Think about it. How often do we exhaust ourselves worrying about things that are simply out of our hands? Whether it's how someone will respond to an email, the results of an important test, or how well a project will turn out, we get lost in the endless spiral of what-ifs. But Stoicism teaches us that the key to peace lies in focusing only on what we can control, our own actions. Imagine you're an archer. You can control how well you aim, how much you practice, and how focused you are when you release the arrow. But once that arrow is in the air, whether it hits the target or not is out of your control. There could be a sudden gust of wind or a shift in your stance that throws it off. In this analogy, the Stoics would say that your responsibility ends the moment you release the arrow. What happens afterward? whether it hits or misses, is beyond your control, and therefore not something to stress over. So, how do we practice detaching from outcomes in our everyday lives? Here's a simple shift in mindset that can help. Instead of asking, "Will I succeed or fail?" ask, "Did I give my best effort?" This reframes the goal from something external and uncontrollable to something internal and fully within your power. Take, for example, a job interview. You can't control whether the hiring manager will like you or whether you'll get the job. But you can control how prepared you are, how clearly you communicate, and how confidently you present yourself. At the end of the day, even if the outcome isn't what you hoped for, you can walk away knowing you did everything within your power to give your best. And that's what matters most to the Stoics. Consider how this perspective can apply to your own life. When something difficult happens, like a breakup, losing a job, or facing a personal setback, it's easy to feel like the world is ending. But when you embrace the Stoic understanding of impermanence, you realize that this, too, shall pass. Just as the good times don't last forever, neither do the bad times. Life is a series of cycles, and change is the only constant. By fully embracing this, you can learn to stop resisting change and start flowing with it. Instead of holding on tightly to the past or anxiously waiting for the future, you can allow yourself to be fully present in the now, appreciating what you have while you have it, and accepting that it won't last forever. But here's the key. Embracing impermanence isn't about detachment in the sense of not caring. On the contrary, it's about caring deeply for the present because you know it won't last. It's about living fully, knowing that life is short and every moment is a gift. It's about savoring your experiences, appreciating your relationships, and being grateful for what you have in the moment, without clinging to it when it inevitably changes. A practical way to embrace this Stoic principle is through the practice of memento mori, or the meditation on death. This might sound morbid, but in Stoicism, reflecting on the inevitability of death is a way to motivate yourself to live fully and intentionally. Seneca reminds us, "Let us prepare our minds as if we come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day." In other words, when you acknowledge the impermanence of life, you stop wasting time on things that don't matter, and you start focusing on what does. Here's an exercise to help you embrace impermanence. Pick one aspect of your life that you've been struggling with, whether it's a relationship, a goal, or even a possession. Now, remind yourself that this aspect of your life, like all things, is temporary. Reflect on how this impermanence makes it more precious. How does knowing that it won't last forever change the way you feel about it? How can you appreciate it more fully while it's here? By practicing this mindset, you'll find that the grip of the past loosens and the fear of the future diminishes. You'll become more present, more at peace, and more able to enjoy life's fleeting moments without attachment or regret. The Stoics believe that the more we accept the impermanence of life, the more free we become. We stop fearing change, and we stop clinging to things we cannot hold on to. Instead, we live fully, in the moment, with gratitude for all that life offers, knowing that it is all part of a greater cycle of constant transformation. In the end, embracing impermanence allows us to let go of the past, face the future with courage, and find true peace in the present. It is a reminder that life, in all its complexity and beauty, is meant to be lived, not controlled, clung to, or feared. So, as you move forward, remember that everything is temporary, and that's what makes life so extraordinary. One of the most empowering teachings of Stoicism is the idea that every individual has a purpose, a duty to fulfill in life. The Stoics believe that when you're connected to a sense of purpose, you're better able to let go of distractions, especially the regrets and burdens of the past. Why? Because when you have something meaningful to focus on, the past loses its grip on you. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, constantly reminded himself of this principle in his meditations. In one passage, he writes, "At dawn, When you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work. As a human being, what do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do? For Marcus, this work was not about a job or career. It was about living in accordance with his purpose, his duty to serve others and live with virtue. The Stoics taught that we all have a unique role to play in the world. Whether that role is as a parent, an artist, a teacher, or a caregiver, we each have a responsibility to live our lives in accordance with our values and to contribute to the greater good. This doesn't mean you need to change the world on a grand scale. It simply means that you should live with intention, pursuing the things that align with your deepest values and making a positive impact where you can. So, how does this help you let go of the past? When you shift your focus from regret to purpose, your energy is no longer tied up in things you can't change. Instead, it's directed towards something that gives your life meaning in the present. The more you focus on what you can do today to fulfill your purpose, the less room there is in your mind for the past to take over. Let's break this down with an example. Imagine someone who has spent years regretting a failed business venture. They constantly replay the mistakes they made, thinking about what they should have done differently. But once they shift their focus to their purpose, perhaps they realize their true calling is to help others avoid the same mistakes. They begin to channel that regret into something constructive. Maybe they start mentoring young entrepreneurs or sharing their experiences through a blog or podcast. By focusing on this new purpose, they stop dwelling on the past and instead use it as fuel for something meaningful. This shift in focus is incredibly liberating. When you're no longer trapped in the should have and could have thoughts, you become free to live in the present and work toward a future that aligns with your values. But what if you don't know your purpose? The Stoics would encourage you to start small. Epictetus often emphasized the importance of recognizing what is in your control, and your purpose doesn't have to be something grand or world-changing. It could be as simple as being a kind and supportive friend, caring for your family, or making your community a better place in some small way. The key is to live with intention, to align your daily actions with the virtues you value most, like kindness, courage, and integrity. Here's a practical exercise to help you discover or reconnect with your purpose. Take some time to reflect on your core values. What matters most to you in life? What do you feel called to do, even in small ways? Then write down a few specific actions you can take that align with those values. For example, if one of your values is helping others, maybe your purpose is to volunteer in your community or simply be there for friends and family when they need support. The more you live in alignment with your values, the more your purpose will become clear, and the less you'll feel tied to the regrets of the past. Another key element of Stoic purpose is the idea of service. The Stoics believe that one of the most meaningful ways to live is to be of service to others. By focusing on helping others, whether that's through your work, relationships, or personal contributions, you naturally shift your focus away from your own regrets and towards something larger than yourself. Seneca reminds us that he who lives for others lives for himself. In other words, when we focus on contributing to the greater good, we not only help those around us, but we also find a deeper sense of fulfillment and purpose in our own lives. This focus on service gives us a reason to keep moving forward, even when things get tough, and helps us let go of the things that no longer serve us. It's important to remember that finding and living your purpose is a journey, not a destination. You don't need to have everything figured out all at once. The Stoics understood that life is constantly changing, and our purpose might evolve over time. What matters is that you keep moving forward, keep seeking ways to live with intention, and keep contributing to the world in a way that feels meaningful to you. A final exercise to help shift your focus from the past to your purpose is to set daily intentions. Each morning, ask yourself, what can I do today to live in alignment with my purpose? It could be something small, like showing kindness to someone in need, or something bigger, like taking a step toward a long-term goal. By starting each day with a sense of purpose, You'll find that the past begins to fade into the background as you focus more on what you can achieve in the present. In summary, when you focus on your purpose, you free yourself from the weight of the past. Instead of being consumed by regrets or missed opportunities, you direct your energy towards something meaningful. The Stoics believe that this shift in focus is the key to living a life of virtue, resilience, and inner peace. As you move forward, keep reminding yourself that your purpose is here and now. In the actions you take today, in the ways you contribute to the world, and in the small, intentional steps you take toward becoming the person you are meant to be. The past no longer holds power over you because your focus is on something much more important, living a life of purpose and meaning. If there's one Stoic practice that might seem counterintuitive at first glance, it's negative visualization. While it sounds like focusing on negativity, this practice is actually one of the most effective ways to cultivate gratitude and let go of attachments to the past. Negative visualization involves imagining what life would be like without the things you hold dear, or how things could have turned out worse than they did. At its core, negative visualization is about preparing for life's inevitable challenges while also helping us appreciate the present moment more fully. The Stoics believe that by regularly contemplating the loss of things we often take for granted, whether it's our health, our relationships, or even our very existence, we can become more resilient and less attached to external outcomes. Seneca described it like this: "What is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster. But nothing ought to be unexpected by us. Our minds should be sent forward in advance to meet all the terms of misfortune." In other words, by preparing ourselves mentally for life's inevitable hardships, we are less likely to be overwhelmed by them when they arrive. But this practice isn't just about preparing for the worst. It's also about helping us appreciate what we have in the here and now. When you imagine losing something, whether it's a cherished relationship, a job, or even a beloved hobby, you realize how valuable it is in your life. This realization naturally leads to gratitude. And with gratitude comes the ability to let go of past regrets and focus on what truly matters. Let's explore how negative visualization can help you let go of the past. Often, we become fixated on what we've lost or what we didn't achieve, but negative visualization helps us shift our focus. Instead of dwelling on what could have been, we imagine what life would be like if things had turned out even worse, or if we hadn't had the things we regret losing in the first place. For example, let's say you regret a failed relationship. Instead of focusing on the pain of the breakup, you could practice negative visualization by imagining what life would have been like if you never met that person at all. In doing so, you begin to appreciate the good memories and lessons you gained from the relationship, rather than just the loss. You may also realize that things could have ended on worse terms, which helps put your current situation in perspective. A practical way to start incorporating negative visualization into your life is through a daily reflection practice. Each morning or evening, take a few moments to imagine losing something you currently have, whether it's your health, your job, or your loved ones. This doesn't mean dwelling on morbid thoughts, but rather using this visualization to cultivate a deep sense of gratitude for the things you often overlook. Here's an exercise to get started. Think of 3 things in your life that you value deeply. Now, imagine what life would be like without them. How would your day-to-day experience change? What would you miss most about these things? After reflecting on this for a few moments, shift your focus to gratitude. Appreciate that you have these things now and recognize how fortunate you are to experience them in the present. This practice not only fosters gratitude, but also helps you develop emotional resilience. When you regularly contemplate the possibility of loss, you become less fearful of it. You understand that loss is a natural part of life, and when it happens, you will be better prepared to face it with grace and acceptance. Moreover, negative visualization helps you let go of past regrets by reminding you that things could always have been worse. Maybe you didn't get the promotion you wanted, but imagine if you had lost your job entirely. Maybe you regret the way a friendship ended, but consider how much worse it could have been if things had gone differently. By acknowledging that life is full of uncertainty and impermanence, you free yourself from the unrealistic expectation that things should have turned out perfectly. The Stoics understood that life is full of ups and downs, and the key to peace is not avoiding hardship, but learning to navigate it with resilience. Negative visualization trains your mind to be ready for whatever life throws at you, and in doing so, it helps you appreciate the present moment more fully. The next time you catch yourself dwelling on a past regret, practice this technique. Imagine how much worse things could have been, and allow that thought to shift your focus toward gratitude for what you have now. In summary, negative visualization is a powerful Stoic tool for both cultivating gratitude and building resilience. By regularly imagining life without the things you value, you not only prepare yourself for life's inevitable changes, but also learn to appreciate the present more deeply. And in the process, you'll find that letting go of the past becomes much easier as your focus shifts from what's gone to what you still have. With this practice, you can develop a mindset that embraces change, accepts loss, and finds peace in the present moment, knowing that life, in all its imperfection, is still something to be deeply appreciated. The phrase amor fati translates from Latin to mean love of fate. It's one of the most profound Stoic principles, encouraging us not only to accept what happens in our lives, but to embrace it fully, even the difficult or painful parts. Amor fati teaches us to view everything, successes and failures, joys and hardships, as essential pieces of our personal journey. It's the ultimate form of acceptance and a key to finding inner peace, no matter what life throws your way. So how does this help with letting go of the past? When we struggle with the past, it's often because we feel that things shouldn't have happened the way they did. We'd resist reality, wishing we had made different choices or that circumstances had been different. Amor fati flips this mindset on its head. Instead of wishing things had been different, it encourages us to believe that everything, good or bad, happened exactly as it was meant to. Imagine this for a moment. What if the challenges and setbacks you faced weren't obstacles to your growth, but the very thing you needed to become the person you are today? Amor fati invites us to see life's difficulties as opportunities for growth, resilience, and wisdom. The things you regret, the mistakes you made, they weren't random missteps, but stepping stones leading you toward your purpose. Friedrich Nietzsche, a philosopher greatly influenced by Stoicism, expanded on this idea of amor fati. He wrote, "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. Not merely bear what is necessary, still less conceal it, but love it." Nietzsche's interpretation of this Stoic idea underscores its power. We are not just to endure or tolerate what happens to us, but to love it as part of our fate. This isn't easy. Loving your fate, especially when it's painful or disappointing, is a radical idea. But it's also a liberating one. When you embrace amor fati, you stop resisting reality and start seeing every event in your life as part of a grand design. Even your failures and regrets become meaningful when viewed through this lens. Let's break it down with an example. Imagine you've been working hard on a project for months, only to have it fail. The natural reaction might be frustration, disappointment, or even anger at the wasted time and effort. But amor fati asks you to look deeper. What if this failure wasn't a waste at all? What if it was a necessary part of your growth, teaching you lessons that will make your next endeavor more successful? By embracing this failure as part of your fate, you can transform your perspective and use it as a source of strength rather than a burden. The Stoics believe that life is full of events beyond our control, but what is within our control is how we respond to them. Amor fati is the ultimate Stoic response. It's the mindset that allows us to not only accept what happens, but to welcome it as essential to our journey. This shift in perspective helps us let go of past regrets because we no longer see those events as mistakes or missed opportunities, but as necessary chapters in our personal story. Here's a practical way to start embracing amor fati in your own life. Reflect on a recent challenge you faced, something that didn't go the way you planned. It could be a personal setback, a professional failure, or even something small, like a miscommunication with a friend. Now, instead of viewing it as a negative event, ask yourself, how could this have been necessary for my growth? What did I learn from this experience that I can carry forward? By reframing the event in this way, you begin to see it as something valuable rather than regrettable. You can also incorporate amor fati into your daily mindset by practicing gratitude for all experiences, not just the pleasant ones. When something goes wrong, take a moment to pause and reflect on how this difficulty might be helping you grow. Even if it's not immediately obvious, trust that every experience has something to teach you. This attitude of gratitude transforms challenges into opportunities and past regrets into valuable lessons. Marcus Aurelius summed up the spirit of amor fati in his meditations when he wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." In other words, a person who embraces their fate can transform any experience, no matter how difficult, into something meaningful and useful. The obstacles we face are not roadblocks but fuel for our personal growth. It's important to note that amor fati doesn't mean passively accepting whatever happens without trying to improve your life. The Stoics were all about taking action, striving for excellence, and living with purpose. But amor fati helps us recognize that while we work hard and make choices, the outcome is often out of our hands. And that's okay. By accepting and loving whatever comes our way, we free ourselves from the emotional turmoil of constantly wishing things were different. One final exercise to help you practice amor fati is to journal about a past event you've been holding on to. Write down what happened, how you felt about it, and what you've learned from it since. Then rewrite the story from the perspective of amor fati. Instead of viewing it as something to regret, frame it as something that was necessary for your growth. What opportunities did it create? How did it shape you into who you are today? By rewriting your story in this way, you'll begin to see your past not as a series of unfortunate events, but as a meaningful journey toward wisdom and resilience. In summary, amor fati is about more than just accepting your past. It's about loving it. Every experience, no matter how painful or difficult, is part of the tapestry of your life. By embracing this Stoic principle, you free yourself from the burden of regret and begin to see every obstacle as an opportunity for growth. You no longer wish things had been different. Instead, you recognize that everything happened exactly as it was meant to, and you are stronger and wiser because of it. The next time you find yourself ruminating on something that didn't go the way you planned, remind yourself of amor fati. Accept your fate, embrace it, and love it. By doing so, you'll discover a newfound sense of peace, resilience, and gratitude for the journey you've been on. At the core of Stoic philosophy is the idea that the ultimate goal in life is to live virtuously. For the Stoics, virtues like wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline weren't just lofty ideals. They were the guiding principles for how to navigate every decision, every interaction, and every challenge in life. When we align our lives with virtue, we free ourselves from the noise and distractions of the past and future, allowing us to live with clarity, purpose, and peace. But what does it mean to focus on virtue? And how does this help us let go of the past? In Stoicism, virtue isn't just about being morally good. It's about living in accordance with your highest values and acting in ways that are true to your character, regardless of external circumstances. Whether you're dealing with a difficult situation at work, a personal challenge, or even something as simple as making a decision in your daily life, the Stoics believe that you should always ask, what is the virtuous thing to do? What action aligns with wisdom, courage, justice, or self-discipline? By focusing on virtue as your guiding compass, you naturally begin to let go of past regrets and future anxieties. Why? Because virtue is something you can control. It's entirely within your power to choose to act virtuously, no matter what happens around you. This is one of the most liberating aspects of Stoic philosophy. Your peace and fulfillment don't depend on external success, approval, or outcomes. They depend solely on your ability to live in alignment with virtue. Consider this. Many of the regrets we carry from the past stem from the belief that we failed to achieve something external. Whether it was a goal we didn't reach, a relationship that didn't work out, or a mistake we made. But the Stoics remind us that external outcomes aren't what truly matter. What matters is whether we acted in accordance with our values. If we did, then there's no reason for regret. And if we didn't, then the best thing we can do is learn from the experience and strive to live more virtuously going forward. Seneca often emphasized the idea that we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. He wrote, "A good character is the only guarantee of everlasting, carefree happiness." This means that when we make virtue our focus, we create a sense of inner stability that isn't shaken by the ups and downs of life. Whether things go well or poorly, whether we succeed or fail, we find peace in knowing that we acted with integrity and stayed true to our values. Let's apply this to letting go of the past. Imagine you're struggling with regret over a decision you made years ago. Maybe it was a career choice you now wish you hadn't made, or a time when you acted out of fear instead of courage. Rather than fixating on the outcome of that decision, ask yourself, did I act according to virtue? If the answer is yes, if you acted with the best intentions, based on the information you had at the time, then there's no reason to regret it. You did what was virtuous, and that's all you can ask of yourself. And if the answer is no, if you acted out of alignment with your values, then that too is an opportunity for growth. The Stoics believe that every mistake is a chance to learn and improve. You can't change the past, but you can commit to living more virtuously in the future. Here's a practical exercise to help you focus on virtue. Start each day by reflecting on one of the Stoic virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, or self-discipline. Ask yourself, how can I embody this virtue today? What decisions can I make that align with this value? By starting your day with a focus on virtue, you set the tone for how you will navigate the challenges and opportunities that come your way. You begin to see every situation as an opportunity to practice virtue, rather than something to fear or regret. Another powerful way to incorporate virtue into your daily life is to reflect on your actions at the end of each day. Before you go to bed, take a few minutes to review your day and ask, did I act in accordance with my values today? Did I live virtuously? If the answer is yes, celebrate that. If the answer is no, don't dwell on it. Simply commit to doing better tomorrow. By making virtue your guiding compass, you create a sense of inner peace that isn't dependent on external circumstances. You no longer need to carry the weight of past mistakes or worry about future outcomes because your sense of fulfillment comes from within. You know that as long as you live with integrity, you are on the right path. In conclusion, when you make virtue your highest goal, you free yourself from the distractions of regret and anxiety. You stop worrying about what could have been or what might happen, and instead focus on what you can control, living in alignment with your values. This is the true essence of Stoicism, finding peace and fulfillment not in what happens to you, but in how you choose to respond. As you continue your journey of letting go of the past, remember that every day is a new opportunity to practice virtue. By making wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline your guiding principles, you will find that peace and resilience come naturally, regardless of what life throws your way.